license, and even to work as, say, a barber or a hairstylist, you may not be able to get that license for that type of employment because of a very old criminal conviction. So there are people who deserve pardons who have really earned that opportunity. And those people are applying in droves for that relief through my old office, the Office of the Pardon Attorney. Right now, there are over 20,000 applications piled up from ordinary Americans that are just being ignored because those people don't have the political connections or the wealth to jump the line and get their application directly on the president's desk. Those deserving people are sitting in a pile gathering dust while Donald Trump is rewarding his allies and his supporters and his donors. And I think we're very focused on the corruption piece of it, rightly, but people need to understand that there are other costs as well. There are costs to the deserving people who are not getting relief that they may deserve because this process has become so corrupted by Donald Trump and his allies and supporters, who are also equally profiting off of their access.
Yeah. I mean, it's really just so distressing. You think like, okay, if Kim Kardashian comes forward and talks to the president for you, you could get a pardon. If you pay your $1 million entrance fee, you can get a pardon. But you have all these regular people who truly deserve pardons who aren't getting them because they can't pay the entrance fee to this administration. I mean, I bring it back to like, I don't understand how long this can go on, how long until people realize that this is how he is running the American government. And I just think back to all the promises he made just off the top of my head. Like, you never got your Doge check. You never got your tariff check. They never sent the hospital boat to Greenland. We don't have 10% APR on our credit cards, right? Our meds are not 100 to 1,500% cheaper, which of course makes no sense because they would have to pay us if our drugs were 100% cheaper. They would be free. We don't have $2 gas that he promised us. We don't have cheaper groceries. In fact, everything is more expensive. We're not releasing the Epstein files. We're in a new war. We can't have government services due to lack of finances, but we have money for the ballroom, for the arch. I mean, it just never ends. I feel like the people that are pushing back are Democrats and then Republicans that keep getting pushed out of power. People like Thomas Massie or Tom Tillis is leaving. Those two men are both being very vocal now. And it sort of depresses me that only Thomas Massie is a bit different. I think he really has stood up for the Epstein files, and I agree with him on very little, but he was outspoken from the beginning against the war, against the Epstein files. But someone like Tom Tillis, he's leaving and now he's speaking up. It's not that these Republicans don't know that this is going on. It's not that they don't understand that we're being robbed blind. It's not that they don't know that it's a criminal enterprise. They just all want a seat on the lifeboat rather than stopping the captain from driving us into the iceberg. And that's what makes me so crazy. It's like they're all in the captain's quarters. They can all pull the wheel away from him, and they don't. They're just all counting on having a seat in the lifeboat when we crash. But the rest of us are on the boat too, and that just makes me so crazy. It's so irresponsible.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, Lee. I mean, it's just so short-sighted what they're doing. They may save themselves for a period of time, but they're doing generational damage to our country. Just rebuilding trust in government is going to be a massive undertaking after we get through this administration. I think about the Justice Department where I used to work, and I think about pardons, which I viewed as really an important lever of mercy in our country. I mean, that is just broken in the eyes of the public. The Justice Department is not a credible institution. The pardon power is not a legitimate presidential power because of what Donald Trump has done with it. So the question of how we will rebuild is a really big one. I think the focus now rightly is on how do we get to an opportunity to rebuild. And it is my sincere hope that this just undeniably corrupt slush fund that Trump has created might be a turning point that will get some Republicans in Congress to see that they really need to step up and stop this incredible damage that's being done to our democracy before it is too late.
Yeah, I always say that. It's not like their kids don't live here too. It's not like their kids don't have to breathe the air or drink the water or live in a society that's collapsing around them. I mean, you recently did a speech at the annual dinner of the Massachusetts Bar Association, and then you wrote about it on your Substack. And the title of the piece was Calling All Lawyers, This Is Our Moment. And it was basically a piece about how the legal profession has really struggled to properly address this ongoing assault on our rule of law. What did you want people to take, especially lawyers, to take from that article?
Lawyers have a special skill set, a special training that is uniquely valuable in this moment because all of our systems are being assaulted, and the courts have proven to be a way to get recourse, a way to stop some of this stuff. So I believe that all lawyers have an obligation to put those skills to use and to stand up for the rule of law, to use their voices, use their skills to help us to get our country back on track and stop the damage. Unfortunately, the legal profession as a whole has been slow to rise to the occasion. There are many, many lawyers who are doing everything under the sun that they can to protect immigrants, to protect people who are being wrongly deported, to protect people who are being taken advantage of, and to protect our democratic structures. But there are other segments of the legal profession, including sort of the corporate law practices, that have decided that they want to work with this administration. They don't want to get on the bad side of the administration. So early on, after Trump came back into office, they cut these corrupt deals with the administration that unfortunately were very damaging because they made others afraid to stand up to the bully in chief. And that was really disappointing to see. This hit very close to home for me because after I was fired from the Justice Department, I was very outspoken about it, and that made me the subject of retaliation by Todd Blanche, now the acting attorney general. And I decided that I needed to find a lawyer to help me after I was the victim of retaliation by Todd Blanche. And it was very hard to find someone who was willing to step up and represent me because people were scared of taking on this administration. And they are vindictive. They're incredibly vindictive. Todd Blanche sent U.S. Marshals to my home to deliver a warning letter to me about testimony that I gave in Congress, essentially telling me that I was taking legal risks if I went forward with this congressional testimony, which I ultimately did. But the bullying and the intimidation is real. And for me, it was just so jarring and scary to be in a situation where no lawyer wanted to stand beside me and represent me in that situation against the administration. And it's just been disappointing to see that response from some of my fellow lawyers. I do think that the legal profession has started to turn a corner, and most lawyers, if not all, are of the mindset that we need to do the right thing here and stand up for the rule of law. But it certainly has been a journey to get there for many.
Yeah, it has. Unfortunately, you saw a lot of giant law firms roll over right away. And I kept thinking, but if you all stood together, he wouldn't have a chance. You know what I mean? Like the law is the law. And if you stand behind the law and you're like, none of this is political for us, we're just following the law. And they were all like, woo, we're too afraid. And you're like, you're the people that are supposed to stand up. You're the people that are supposed to be the front line. What can you leave us with that might be hopeful? You recently pointed out that the Justice Department is ostensibly dead, decimated by mass departure of staffs, attack on the rule of law. What is your silver lining?
Yeah, what gives me hope every day is to see how many of my fellow citizens are committed to doing the right thing and to standing up to the wrongs of this administration. The Justice Department is absolutely in shambles, and we are seeing people walk away from their jobs because of that. But the good news is people are walking away because they don't want to be complicit in the destruction of our constitutional democracy. They don't want to be complicit in the abuse of the powers of the Justice Department. So I commend those public servants who have decided that they're going to quit rather than be used as pawns in Donald Trump's political agenda. There are still civil servants who are trying to hold it down inside the Justice Department as well and are trying to do good work there. And I commend those people too. I think that there are a lot of people who've really just demonstrated integrity by making hard decisions. The decision whether to leave federal service or stay is a hard one to make right now. And people are approaching it with integrity and approaching it from the perspective of how can I help our country most during this time? Is it by leaving that I help, or is it by staying that I help? And it's been encouraging to me to see so many people who are willing to make sacrifices and walk away from their job to uphold what they believe in. It's also been encouraging to me to see how many other people share my concerns about the direction that we are headed and how many people are trying to use whatever platform they have to speak up, use their voice, and try to affect change. It doesn't always feel like a lot, just sharing a message on Instagram might not feel like a lot, or calling your senator and leaving a message saying, please don't do this or please do this might not feel like a lot, but it all adds up. And that is how we make change. It can feel very overwhelming and even paralyzing if you wake up, you read this bad news day after day, and then you feel like, how can we fix this? I don't know how to fix this. But you don't have to fix the whole thing by yourself. And that's what I try to remind myself. You don't have to take it all on at once. Just do a little bit each day. And those changes, with so many of us committed to getting our country back on track, I think are what are going to get us to the other side of this. Don't give up on the small actions that can make change because you're overwhelmed by the bigger picture. I believe that there's strength in numbers and in collective action, and we will get to the other side of this together.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I say that all the time, that like even having a conversation at your dining room table with your parents or with your friends at dinner, you might think like, oh, we don't really like to talk about politics, but this is exactly the time you want to be doing it. You want to start changing the culture from the inside, so we're not as easy to take advantage of. So people are like, well, that's outrageous. What do you mean we can't audit him for the rest of his life or his family? People should know that. And you can say that at dinner, and that's not going to be political. People are going to be like, hold on, what? Like, that is something we should be talking about. Change the culture, change the way people are feeling about him, and then get people registered to vote. I keep saying that, like, don't discount voting. If we do what Hungary did, if we come out at 80%, it doesn't matter how much they've gerrymandered the country. They're not going to be able to overcome that kind of turnout. And that starts with the conversations. It starts with the smaller actions that you're talking about. It doesn't have to be you yourself in the street every day, or, you know, becoming a lawyer at the Justice Department yourself, which, by the way, I believe they're having a lot of trouble finding new staff over there. No one wants to work there anymore, when it used to be a place that everyone wanted to work. But whoever the next attorney general is, they are going to have to rebuild the trust in the Justice Department. They're going to need to be able to clearly communicate the purpose and mission of the DOJ as it pertains to Americans and the needs of Americans, and equal justice under the law, so that it becomes not just a catchphrase, but something we actually do. I think that's going to be something that we're going to have to really take in by the end of the next administration, if we get to that point. So I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Liz. Please